people today across the territory. Meanwhile, for the first time in more than 2 months, humanitarian aid is trickling back into Gaza, but United Nations officials warned the limited supply is nowhere near enough to avert a deepening humanitarian catastrophe. Over 90 trucks carrying flour, baby supplements, and other basics entered southern Gaza, but the first aid delivery since Israel imposed a total blockade on March 2nd. Officials say more trucks are expected today, but aid agencies warn that volume and access remain insufficient. The United Nations says 80% of Gaza is now under evacuation orders or militarized zones, pushing millions into overcrowded shelters amid severe shortages of food, clean water, medicine, and fuel. The World Health Organization has said that Gaza's health system is at breaking point. The head of the World Health Organization made an emotional plea for Israel to show mercy, saying peace is in Israel's own interest. WHO officials report that only 19 of Gaza's 36 hospitals remain operational, most under extreme conditions. Multiple facilities have been struck or forced to shut down in recent days. Additionally, on the domestic front, protests are taking place in Tel Aviv, calling on the Israeli government to end the war in Gaza. The protesters are also calling for the release of hostages and elections to be held in Israel. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accused the leaders of France, Britain, and Canada of emboldening Hamas by criticizing Israel's latest operations. Let's listen into his comments.
I could never understand how this simple truth evades the leaders of France, Britain, Canada, and others. They're now proposing to establish a Palestinian state and reward these murderers with the ultimate prize. Well, for 18 years, we had a de facto Palestinian state. It's called Gaza. And what did we get? Peace? No. We got the most savage slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. They want Israel to stand down and accept that Hamas's army of mass murderers will survive, rebuild, and repeat the October 7th massacre again and again and again, because that's what Hamas is vowed to do.
We have Professor Rohan Gunaratna as an international security expert joining us from Singapore. Professor, thank you for staying with us. And how significant is the aid that's entering Gaza, and why do aid agencies say it's not enough?
The Palestinian population in Gaza needs sustained supplies of aid, but the challenge is that a significant percentage of the aid is being taken by Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and by other terrorist groups that is entering Gaza. And that is why Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel was reluctant initially to send aid. But again, Western governments, especially Western governments and the UN in general, they want to make sure that the humanitarian support continues to the civilian population in Gaza, even though they are fully aware that these terrorist groups are taking a percentage of the humanitarian assistance. If there is no sustained supply of food, medicines, and other humanitarian assistance, then certainly the people of Gaza will suffer. Prime Minister Netanyahu is determined to dismantle the Hamas infrastructure, is determined to free its hostages, because Israel has all the right to fight for its hostages, because Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and other groups entered Israel on October 7th and 8th, 2023, and took Israeli and foreign nationals as captive. So I believe that Netanyahu's main aim is to secure the release of those hostages by putting military pressure. And of course, at this point, the United Nations and especially Western governments want to ensure that both the hostages are released, but also the people are fed in Gaza.
Right. And according to you, Professor, what is the status of Gaza's health system, and can the World Health Organization's plea, does it have any effect?
Health system of Gaza has also been disrupted because of the war. But all this, the blame has to be taken by Hamas. So that is why it is so important for every Muslim leader, secular, religious, and other leaders to constantly urge Hamas to release the hostages. If hostages are not being released, and in this 21st century, no one should hold hostages of another nation. If they do that, certainly there will be military operations, and the first casualty of those operations are the civilians. So the civilians suffering in Gaza, Hamas and the sponsors of Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the sponsors of those groups and of other terrorist groups, they have to take the responsibility. Israel is fighting for its survival, fighting for the release of its nationals. And
Thank you,
that is why
Professor. Thank you